It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
54 minutes and 43 seconds and counting until Donald J. Trump is inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. I have to tell you, this last 54 minutes are like, how can we get through this last 54 minutes as we wait? We're going to get some help at the bottom of the hour from the great John Fredericks, who is right there. I think he's in Washington. I don't know where exactly he is. He did his show from his studios right across from the White House this morning. And whether or not he made the trek to the Capitol, we'll find out. We're scheduled to give him a call at the bottom of the hour, and hopefully it'll go through. But it's a little busy up there. Now, I have to tell you, so when I woke up on Saturday morning, we had to get the story out about the unfortunate appointment of Penny Schwinn as a disaster, very woke, very equity promoting failure as the Tennessee Education Commissioner. To Deputy Secretary of Education. I think we'll see. That may end up being withdrawn, or she may end up withdrawing. We'll see how that all plays out. So waking up Saturday morning was not as fun as waking up Sunday morning, because Sunday morning, there we are. I'm watching ABC's This Week, and who is there but our great friend Stephen K. Bannon of War Room fame, and the fellow who hired me at Breitbart back in 2012, 13 years ago. I worked with him at Breitbart for 5 years until he went into the White House, and then worked with him after. Great guy, great American. And he really gave it to this Jonathan Karl fellow with ABC News. And you can see Karl is he's trying to give it to Bannon, but Bannon is so good, Karl kind of ends up smiling. So just as all of the high-tech supplicants went down to Mar-a-Lago to talk with Trump in the past week or so, so ABC News as a supplicant goes to War Room. I've been in the War Room studios in the basement of the townhouse that Bannon has, called the Breitbart Embassy, not too far from the Supreme Court. But this was we're going to play this thing. We're going to start, and I'm going to stop it periodically to give you my reactions. Okay, so here we go. Here is Stephen K. Bannon on This Week with Jonathan Karl yesterday.
Mothers and children trapped in poverty in our inner cities. Rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape of our nation. The crime and the gangs and the drugs that have stolen too many lives. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now.
That was Donald Trump's inaugural address in 2017, known as the American Carnage speech, a dark portrayal of the country and both political parties. Steve Bannon was Trump's chief strategist back then and an architect of that speech. Few figures in the MAGA movement are more controversial or more influential. His War Room podcast serves up hard-edged attacks on Trump's enemies, mixed with calls for revenge and retribution. Bannon spent 4 months in prison last year for contempt of Congress. He refused to testify about his conversations with Trump. He still talks with him regularly. In fact, I'm told one of the very first calls that Bannon received after he was released from prison was from Donald Trump. I sat down with Bannon at the Capitol Hill townhouse where he broadcasts the War Room. We've interviewed him before. This time his tone seemed slightly different, a bit less confrontational.
Okay, so look, Stephen K. Bannon is the tip of the spear, Mr. Karl, and he's playing you, and he's doing a great job of it. Let's go. Here's a Q&A, and I've sat in that chair where you see Jonathan Karl is sitting, asking Stephen K. Bannon questions on his townhouse in Capitol Hill, the Breitbart Embassy. Here we go. Carl talking with Stephen K. Bannon.
Although, as you will hear, he did baselessly call Mark Zuckerberg a criminal. That's the same Mark Zuckerberg who will be attending the inauguration tomorrow as a guest of Donald Trump. I interviewed you.
Okay, hold on. Actually, I don't think it's baseless. And let me tell you why. Because in 2020, Zuckerberg and his wife gave $400 million to two separate, quote, a Democrat get out the vote organizations. The Center for Technology and Civic Life got $350 million, and then the Center for Election Integrity Review, something like that, got $50 million. And basically what they did with that money and with the knowledge of Mark Zuckerberg, they took that money and they overtook election operations in key counties in key swing states and basically violated the law in 5 Wisconsin counties and in Fulton County in such a way, however, the way their election laws are set up, that it was very difficult to prosecute. But Bannon is not making that charge baselessly. All right, let's continue with this interview.
Trump. I interviewed you just hours before you went into prison, and now we're sitting here again together just hours before Trump's going to be sworn in.
If I remember correctly, we talked at least before and afterwards about how we were going to win this. Right?
You were quite confident.
Very confident.
So he's going to go out there. It's the second inaugural. You were an architect of the first inaugural, which was American carnage and a condemnation of everybody that was around him on that stage. Is he going to do it again? Is this American carnage 2.0? Because I'm hearing he's not. I'm hearing this is a very different tone.
No. You bring the country together, unify the country.
What does Steve Bannon think of that?
I think it's very appropriate for this. Look at the coalition we put together, what happened on 5 November, right? Look, I realize I'm, always on the attack, but he's president of the United States. He won this victory. He has a big coalition to pull together, and I think he's going to try to unify the country around a course of action that we have to take. I think he'll lay out the challenges, and he'll lay out the beginning in some sort of 60,000-foot level, what his policies and proposals are, but I think it'll all be about unifying the country and going forward together.
So does that mean all that?
Hold on. Okay, so this is the difference, though, right? It's about unifying the country, creating a golden age. That's why we saw at the church service, and I guess it'll be at the inauguration, I guess 5 tech leaders who in 2020 were all opposed to him. Let's talk about them, right? You got Jeff Bezos from Amazon, Mark Zuckerberg from Meta, Facebook, Elon Musk from everything, Twitter, X, SpaceX, Tesla. Oh, man. Tim Cook from Apple. And I can't pronounce it, Sundar Pichai, the head of Google. Let's think about that for a moment. Sundar Pichai, I think, got up in 2017. I think it would be January 2017, right after Trump was inaugurated in his first term. And they held this big meeting with everybody in Google. And they said, well, we're going to make sure this never happens again. And all these Google-ite kids, late 20s, early 30s, making a ton of dough with the biggest monopoly in the world for search engines. And they were crying and complaining, we're going to stop them. We're going to be the resistance. Where is Pichai today? He is a supplicant. And all of these guys are coming. Big tech is coming towards Trump. Why? Common sense, folks. Common sense. We'll have more from Stephen K. Bannon in that classic interview with Jonathan Karl after this.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Hey, I'm Governor Bill Lee, and I want to talk to you about an important education bill in Tennessee. Everyone knows that education has the power to change the trajectory of a child's life forever. And anyone who's raised a child knows that each one's different in their educational needs, and their learning styles, and their talents. The fact is, parents know their own children best. They know what's best for their education and their future. That's why I'm here to talk to you about Tennessee's Education Freedom Act. It empowers parents across our state to use their tax dollars to choose the school that allows their child to thrive, regardless of zip code or income, all while making significant investments in Tennessee's public education. If you want to learn how you can help make the Education Freedom Act a reality in Tennessee, go to educationfreedomact.com and write or call your state representatives. It's educationfreedomact.com.
This ad is paid for by Job Creators Network.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
40 minutes, 52 seconds until Donald J. Trump becomes the 47th president of the United States. He is in the Capitol right now. They are assembling at the rotunda. A little weird element of this. Senator John Fetterman has arrived. He is one of the 600 people who will be in the rotunda. He's wearing a hoodie and gym shorts. It's 20 degrees, 15 degrees outside. He's wearing a hoodie and gym shorts. But okay. Oh, my goodness. And Trump is in the Capitol right now, which is good. I'm very concerned about security issues myself. And so he's there right now. This should be the Capitol Rotunda. Should be pretty much the safest place in the Capitol right now, but you never know. You never know, and I'm very concerned about it. Okay, so meanwhile, let's go back, and we'll continue with. So when I watch Stephen K. Bannon dealing with Jonathan Karl going to the War Room set, the townhouse at Capitol Hill, just a little bit from the Supreme Court, you get the sense that it's a cat and a mouse type thing. And Bannon is kind of the cat toying with the mouse, with Jonathan Karl being the mouse. Let's continue with this set of interviews, and we will pause it frequently for my commentary on this. Here we go. Jonathan Karl continuing his interview of Stephen K. Bannon yesterday on ABC News.
So does that mean all that talk of retribution is never mind?
President Trump has said, and I think in response to you, that his idea of retribution is peace and prosperity, is security in a new golden age.
So prosecuting his enemies, going after the January 6th committee, going after the prosecutors that went after him, Mark Milley, all that stuff's. Forget about that?
I didn't say that. I think that is different. I don't think that's revenge or retribution at all. I'm a big believer, and I've said this over and over again. I say it on the show every day. We have obligations to this republic that this can never happen again, and I think we got to go back to the beginning.
So what do you make of the fact that sitting there with him, I guess now we're inside, but you're going to see the three richest Americans ever. You're going to see Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, prime seats. That doesn't seem like the forgotten men and women that Trump talked about last time. Are you surprised to see that?
I am not. They're there as supplicants. They're not there as the oligarchs. Remember what Biden said about the oligarchs. Jonathan, you know better than anybody because you've chronicled this in detail. We had no power. President Trump was out, and I mean when out, the political class in the Republican Party and Fox News turned against him. We're going to make him a non-person.
He was banned from their platforms.
For, I think, 18 months. But as soon as Zuckerberg said, I've been invited and I'm going, the floodgates opened up, and they were all there knocking, trying to be supplicants. So I look at this, and I think most people in our movement look at this as President Trump broke the oligarchs. He broke them, and they surrendered. They came and said, oh, we'll take off any constraints. There'll be no more checkings, everything. And when Biden talks about that, they create the oligarchs. They only became oligarchs, and they flipped on them when they had surrendered, and now they're going to come to Trump saying, I view this as September of 1945, the Missouri, and you have the Imperial High Command.
The Imperial Japanese.
And he's like Douglas MacArthur. They're there to, that is an official surrender. Okay, and I think it's powerful.
Mark Zuckerberg is there. Do you believe his conversion?
Absolutely not. I think Mark Zuckerberg's a criminal. I think in a properly adjudicated, yes, for 2020, for the Zuckerbucks. But I want to see that. I want to see that in a systematic adjudication, either in the House or I think better with a grand jury and a special prosecutor to go through 2020.
Okay, so let's get to what he's saying there. And by the way, the first step of this, what Ben is talking about, whether it be for Zuckerbucks, Mark Zuckerberg, or for Mark Milley, Anthony Fauci. Now, Zuckerberg hasn't gotten a pardon. And his case is different than Milley and the J6ers, different than Anthony Fauci. But, I mean, I clearly expected on the last day that Biden would issue these pardons. But now they've been pardoned for crimes, which means they cannot take the Fifth Amendment when called before the House. So I think you're going to see the House Oversight Committee and Senate committees inviting Anthony Fauci to testify about everything related to COVID. You're going to have Mark Milley invited to testify everything related to the way he mishandled the original J6 problems back in 2021. Now, what's going to happen as a result of that? Is Fauci going to show up? Is he going to testify honestly? Because if he doesn't testify honestly, there's something called contempt of Congress. And as you know, the J6 committee, the same J6 committee that put Stephen K. Bannon in prison, right, with the help of the Department of Justice, they're going to have to come and testify about that. They will be subjected to the same kind of problem. Here we go. Let's go more with Stephen K. Bannon and Jonathan Karl.
Want Trump's Justice Department under Trump to prosecute
I didn't say that.
Mark Zuckerberg.
I didn't say that. What I want is the House to do it first. But if they're not prepared to do it, a special counsel set up that looks at the 2020 election and looks at it seriously and adjudicates it. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Zuckerberg's, road to Damascus came a little late. It was after the 5th of November. It's very, now he wants to be a bro. He kung fu fights. He's going to UFC. He's got his hair done differently. He's cut. That doesn't hack it with me. That guy will flip on President Trump, and he'll flip on us in a second. When it's convenient for him, he will flip.
I mean, there's no evidence that he did anything that affected the outcome of the election. You called Elon Musk a truly evil person.
Let me just stop for a moment. Okay, that was an edit. There's no evidence that he did something illegal. Yeah, there is. It's called $400 million given knowingly to the Center for Technology and Civic Learning, Center for Technology and Civic Life, that took all that money and went into Green Bay, Wisconsin, and went into Fulton County, and went into Bucks County, and in essence took over illegally the electoral administration process of 2020. So Jonathan Karl, bad edit. All right, let's continue with the interview.
You called Elon Musk a truly evil person.
Yeah.
It's a little harsh.
It was said in context. Let's see what he did is that he came out and he called American citizens. He retweeted something called "Our workers retards," said that we were not up to speed to take any of these jobs. He said that the MAGA movement was a bunch of racists and that they should be turfed out of the Republican Party. And Elon, because he's tweeting all the stuff all the time, he may or may not mean that. But to me, there has to be an accounting for that. Now, listen, he's, like I said, he's done great things. He supported us in 2024, and that was a major reason that President Trump won. Everybody knows he supported the ground game.
When you go after Elon Musk the way you have, so harshly, do you get blowback from Trump? Does he reach out to you and say, "Knock it off. This is my ally. This guy helped me"?
I never disclose anything in conversation with the president or even with the staff or anything like this, but I would just duly note, I didn't see any leaks in the press about the staff or anybody having problems with it. So I don't ask them. My permission structure is not to go back and ask people for permission.
Okay, let me just stop for a moment. We're going to close this interview. That is a statement of truth from Stephen K. Bannon. His permission structure is not to ask anybody for permission. Having known him for 15 years, that's a guy. That's our buddy, Stephen K. Bannon. Hey, when we come back, if all goes well, we'll hear from the great John Fredericks in the belly of the beast right now in Washington, D.C. I don't know exactly where he is, but we'll get his firsthand report after the break.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
We are joined right now on our newsmaker line by the great John Fredericks, who is in Washington, D.C. as we speak. Good morning, John.
Hey, Michael Patrick Leahy, thanks for having me. We're live on the not much to see. The plan was to go to the rooftop of 100 Constitution Avenue, which is, of course, overlooking Capitol and the Rotunda and everything. But there's no one here. Obviously, everything is being held inside. Very cold, balmy day here. Earlier it was about 10 degrees. Gone up a little bit with the sun coming out. But look, it's a tremendous day here. We're with OAN, One America's News. They've got a great setup. But you know, it's a very fascinating day because I was here for this inauguration in 2017, Michael, and it's very different. And I'll just start with three things for today. I think for almost everybody I've talked to, it's a combination of people are very excited, very relieved, and I think somewhat reflective. I mean, the reality of this is when you look back at the debacle that happened in 2020 and the stolen election and the ballots that were coming in on trucks and mail and fraud that went on, you know, it's almost we're in a much better position today than Trump would have been had he actually gotten reelected in 2020, because now he doesn't care. And he's seen it all. So it's going to be a very fascinating 100 days. As you know, right off the bat, he said he's going to revoke the security clearance of the 51 Intel lying weasels that signed that Intel letter saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was Soviet propaganda, which of course it was not. They all lied. So he's going to revoke their clearances by the bottom of the hour. So it's going to be a fascinating day, Michael Patrick Leahy.
Well, John, you're doing such a great job up there, and you have, because of this, the incoming Trump administration, you have changed your operation so that weekdays you are in Washington, D.C. Your studios are, I guess, right across from the White House. We're going to have to come up there when we do our broadcasting from Washington, D.C. Now, tell us a little bit about the overall mood in Washington, D.C. You've gone, I guess, to several of the events. What's it like there?
Yes. Unbelievable. You know, you go back to 2017, and there was a lot of trepidation here, and there was also a tremendous resistance that had formulated on day one. I would say number one, Michael, that it's gone from a mode of resistance to a mode of acceptance by the left, by the communists. The second thing I would say is just average people. Ann and I were up here for about a week 3 months ago, and we had meetings with some customers, and we went to the FCC. We had a big meeting there trying to make this West Virginia acquisition, and everybody was just in a down mood. Everybody, when I say everybody, I'm talking about cab drivers, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, hotel bellmen, the guy that takes your bags. Everybody was pissed. It was just a miserable time. And now we come back. We've been here 2 weeks, and it's the exact opposite. Everybody you run into is fired up. Trump's coming back down to I went to CVS to get a razor blade, and you can't buy a razor at CVS. You got to go behind a piece of glass and ring a bell. A manager comes to open it up and then escort you to the register to buy a razor. I mean, I got to shave, right? And shaving cream is behind a glass. And I'm like, what is going on here? It's not like I'm buying like expensive cologne or something. I just got to shave. And the guy says, hey, don't worry about it. This was an African-American young fella, maybe 25 to 28. He says, don't worry about it. Trump's coming. Trump's coming. So it's all going to get better. Trump's coming. I'm thinking to myself, what does he have to do with behind the glass? And I said to him, well, what does that have to do with it? He said, he's going to get rid of all this crime. We can't. Somebody comes in to steal something, we can't do anything. They just walk out with a bag and they put their stuff in it. So there's a real optimism here. And I tell you the other thing, Mike, when we were here in 2017 for this inauguration, I mean, we were at a hotel in Tyson's Corner at an Embassy Suites Washington was too expensive, so we stayed there. Hotel was sold out, not by MAGA people. It was sold out by the Pink Hat Brigade because the day after the inauguration, they had like a 50,000 women's march, and that was the resistance, and 100,000 people. And this thing went on, and, you know, you had all the rhinos and McCains, and everybody was going to fight Trump and all the never-Trumpers. The never-Trumper, the anti-Trump resistance from the media has now melted away to Rachel Maddow is coming back weekly for a weeknight show for MSNBC. That's it. So everything has changed. People are optimistic. They're upbeat. And it's going to be just a phenomenal 100 days. And then we'll see what happens.
John, you were the very first media person to track with Donald Trump.
Yes.
You were with Donald Trump. You have been with Donald Trump since literally before he came down the escalator in the spring of 2015. This has got to be, for you personally, an incredibly significant day, having tracked all of this movement of 10 years. And I think maybe even before that. Tell us a little bit about when you first realized Donald Trump was going to be such a significant player in American political history.
2014 in the fall, when I was fighting, because I'm a protectionist, everybody knows that. I never met a tariff I didn't like. You put a tariff on something for foreign goods, I don't care what it is, I'm in favor of it. I want U.S. jobs. So I was fighting on the radio back then, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, and all Republicans were for it, Cruz, the whole bunch of them. They were all for it. Everybody was for it, yay. And I was the only one fighting it. And we were trying to find somebody else to stop this thing. And so we called Trump up because he was the only one that was a Republican that was against NAFTA. Remember when Clinton and Gingrich passed NAFTA and Perot was saying you're going to have this great sucking sound? Well, I hated that. So we called him up. We went there. And I said, "Would can you have?" And I talked to his secretary. You know, I've got the couple radio stations I'm on. I want to run this ad, and I'll get some money for it from one of the trade unions. I just want to run that against TPP. So he said, she called me up and said, fine. So we went up there, Curtis Ellis and I, who since passed, and Curtis got his little microphone out there with his phone and went up there and cut an ad.
So hold it. Back in 2014, just for our listeners, to be close, to see how long you have had this relationship covering Donald Trump. Did you go into his office?
2014, yep. And then...
what was that like the first time you met Trump?
It was, you know, he's Donald Trump. I mean, he's very nice. I mean, you don't go up there. I mean, Trump Tower is intimidating, but he's not. And his assistant was so nice, and everybody was nice that we talked with. And so, you know, Curtis Ellis actually went in the office. I had a chance to meet him. Curtis went in there and got the recording done. And, of course, he's since passed. He was one of my best friends in the world. But he came on my show in the following April. And
before he came down, before he announced, before he came down that escalator, April of 2015.
End of March, I think, or beginning of April, he was going to Virginia for something, Chesterfield County. He was like the featured speaker there at their gala. So I got him on, and he came on my show. And I remember saying to him, I said, you called him Mr. Trump at the time. I said, well, Mr. Trump, if you run for president, you're going to be the Republican nominee, and you're going to win.
Now, you told that to Trump in April of 2015.
On the air live. And he said, what, John, what makes you say that? And I'm like, because I've got callers that are calling in. This was after, remember Boehner and the whole call? The Republicans didn't do anything?
Yeah.
I said, because Republicans are calling my show every single day from all over the country. I'm only in Virginia. They found me. They're pissed. They want change. They want something else. They don't believe in the party. So if you run, you're going to be the nominee. And if you're the nominee, you'll win. And he said, really? Well, that's interesting. So that's how the thing started.
But he was in the polls at that time. He was like at 1%, right?
1%. Yeah. So I backed him. I made it. I said, I'm going to give you my endorsement right now, even though you're not in the race. You're 1%. So that's when we backed him.
You were the first guy to endorse Donald Trump for president.
Yep. I never got off it because, look, I had gone through the 2008 crash. We lost everything. Everybody knows this story. I mean, we went from successful business to my kids. We couldn't pay for their college to all of a sudden I get up one day, homeless with a child living out of a car. And so, and I did anything to make money. I was parking cars and bringing the food home at night, sweeping out offices. I did whatever I could do at the time. I mean, there were no jobs. I was in my 50s. I mean, it was pretty bad. But we survived. But, you know, they didn't do anything for us. There was no bailouts. I mean, I lost my home, my car, everything got repo. We had nothing, zero, and no money and no job and no credit. And so you can't survive. But the banks were getting bailed out. The insurance, AIG, was going to Carmel to have a big sales meeting on our taxpayer dime. And that's what Trump tapped into. And he was the first person who talked to me that I felt cared about us. Like he cared about us.
And that comes
like
through.
He genuinely cared.
John, how many times have you interviewed Donald Trump since that first interview on air?
He's been on my show 78 times.
78 times. I don't think anybody else has interviewed Donald Trump 78 times.
I think I hold the record. Now, at the beginning, it mounted because there wasn't a lot of people that, you know, would come out every week. And, you know, he would just call me from his, you know, from his apartment, Trump Tower. I remember one time he's on the phone at 8 a.m. and I guess his son Barron at the time was what? He's 20 now, so we got to go back. He was 10 or 12 or something. And he comes running in and he says, "Daddy, are we going to the Giants game this weekend? Are we going to the Giants game? They're playing the Eagles. I hate the Eagles." that came right over the air. So it got, you know, you got the feeling like he was just running. You know, he was just excited about the game. It was like a Friday. The game was a Sunday. And so, you know, and so the president says to him, "Well, I think Uncle Don's going." "Okay, Uncle Don, yeah, cool."
There you go.
Whatever. So,
well, John Fredericks, what a terrific reporting career you've had. The first person to endorse Donald Trump in the world for president. And here we are, more than 10 years later. He's going to be inaugurated in about 14 minutes. Congratulations to you for that great reporting, John Fredericks.
Michael Patrick Leahy, keep up the super work. Talk to you soon. Can't wait to see you in Washington, D.C.
John Fredericks, the great John Fredericks. We'll be back with more after this.
My fellow Americans, I was this close, very close, to buying from the lumber yards. These are sick people. But I turned my head at the last second, and I saw a big, beautiful ad for D.T. McCall's. These are highly respected people. If I had not turned my head at the last second, I would have been ripped off at some lumber yard for $200 in hidden charges, and D.T. McCall & Sons are never going to do that. They'd never do that to you. These are great people. I've known them for a long time. They have great deals, and I just have to say, nobody knows deals like I do. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. These are tremendous people. D.T. McCall & Sons. Check out one of their stores today.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Hey, I'm Governor Bill Leahy, and I want to talk to you about an important education bill in Tennessee. Everyone knows that education has the power to change the trajectory of a child's life forever. And anyone who's raised a child knows that each one's different in their educational needs, and their learning styles, and their talents. The fact is, parents know their own children best. They know what's best for their education and their future. That's why I'm here to talk to you about Tennessee's Education Freedom Act. It empowers parents across our state to use their tax dollars to choose the school that allows their child to thrive, regardless of zip code or income, all while making significant investments in Tennessee's public education. If you want to learn how you can help make the Education Freedom Act a reality in Tennessee, go to educationfreedomact.com and write or call your state representatives. It's educationfreedomact.com.
This ad is paid for by Job Creators Network.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Can't wait. 7 minutes, 40 seconds until Donald J. Trump will be the 47th president of the United States. Can you believe it? It's like, 7 minutes until you get down for Christmas to open the presents. It's an excruciating 7 minutes. Hey, we're going to talk a little bit here about the TikTok ban and the back and forth on that. This from the Babylon Bee. It's hilarious. Just broke from the Babylon Bee. It's, by the way, that's it's a spoof, right? It's satire. Headline: with TikTok ban, Americans now only being spied on by the Pentagon, Google, Facebook, Apple, Samsung, doorbell, and toaster. Pretty true. Okay, so Mike Gallagher, a former congressman from Wisconsin, now with a big-time corporation that's been very much involved in national security and AI. Mike Gallagher had a comment about ByteDance, which is the company that is basically owned by the Chicoms, for the most majority owned by the Chicoms, and also owns TikTok. And there's been a real weird back and forth on it, right? So TikTok, the law said it was going to be banned. TikTok shut it down. Then they opened it back up after about a day later. Yesterday, soon-to-be President Trump, 5 minutes away from President Trump, said he's going to try to extend it. He will issue an executive order to extend it for 90 days. We'll get to the legality of that in a bit. But let's hear from Mike Gallagher about TikTok and ByteDance. Clip 2.
Well, really, there's two threats. Having your foremost geopolitical adversary control what is becoming the dominant news platform for young Americans raises the threat of espionage. The platform could be used to spy on 170 million Americans, and also it could be used as a propaganda platform. Therefore, all we're saying is divest, change the ownership structure, and people can continue to use the app. And the only reason we're here today is because TikTok spent the last 270 days trying to not comply with the law, suing the government.
So there we go. That's the point. This law has been in effect for 270 days, now 271 days, right? And they didn't comply with it. They were playing a game of chicken. And there's reasons why the law allows an extension by the president for 90 days in the event there is a bona fide bid from an American company, which apparently there is through Kevin O'Leary and Frank McCourt, who's a billionaire who used to own the Dodgers. So we got that going on. Ted Cruz has a very clear opinion on this. Let's go clip 8, Senator Ted Cruz.
If we are sitting here 91 days from now and TikTok is still live and China is still owning and controlling it, that will be a very dangerous situation, because the Chinese Communist government uses TikTok, number one, for espionage, and number two, to push propaganda and to push very harmful content to our children, harmful content that pushes self-harm, that pushes suicidal ideation, that pushes substance abuse, that pushes anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism and anti-capitalism. It is a potent propaganda tool.
Yeah, he's exactly right on that. Now, the president-elect, 4 minutes from being the president, Donald J. Trump, put out a statement saying he's going to extend it 90 days, which he can do under the law, and I think he's got the authority to do that legally in a few minutes when he becomes president again, because the law says if there's a valid bid that has been submitted, you can extend for 90 days to allow for negotiations. So I think the O'Leary fits in that valid bid. Now, what the president said, which is kind of interesting to me, or the president-elect, soon to be president, it said, yeah, I think there should be a joint venture, 50% American, 50% ByteDance. I'm not sure I'm in favor of that, but look, leverage. There's also a report that he talked to President Xi, the vice president of China, is here, has been pictured with J.D. Vance. And there's a report now that Trump wants to go to China in the first 100 days. I think it's a great idea. Now, the other weird element of this is Donald Trump is kind of an iconic social hero in China. How about that? So you can see there's all sorts of stuff going on. I don't know how it's all going to play out, but I got to tell you, when we come back, Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States in now 3 minutes when he's president. We'll be back in 8. Wow. Crom Carmichael will join us in the Tennessee Bonus Hour. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.